Kia ora koutou, good afternoon and welcome to this event organised by the New Zealand Institute of International Affairs and the Caribbean Council, with thanks to the support of the University of Auckland Waipapa Taumata rao. My name is Frederick A and I'm a member of the National Board of the Institute and the Director of the Council. Founded in 1934, the NZIIA is a non-government organisation with 7 branches across Aotearoa, which provide an independent and non-partisan platform on international affairs and their impact on New Zealand. The Caribbean Council was launched in April 2016 with a focus on promoting greater diplomatic, cultural and economic relations between New Zealand and the Caribbean region. Since its launch, the Council has run many events in person and online, covering the diverse countries and territories which make up the Caribbean, ranging from the Dutch and Spanish-speaking Caribbean to the Commonwealth Caribbean. Today we are honoured to be hosting the Honourable Frederick A. Mitchell MP, Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Public Service of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Mr Mitchell was sworn in as the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Public Service in September 2021, his 3rd time in the position. His ministerial portfolio includes foreign affairs, foreign missions, protocol matters, extradition, treaty succession, coordination of applications for international technical assistance, law of the sea, United Nations, OAS and CARICOM affairs, passports, visas and immigration. Previously, he served as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Public Service from 2002 to 2007, Chairman, Senate Select Committee on Culture from 1992 to 1997. He's a former Chairman of Council for Foreign and Community Relations of CARICOM, the Caribbean Community, and a founding member of the Bahamas Committee on Southern Africa. He has also recently chaired the Commonwealth Experts for Presidential Elections Committee. As Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Mitchell was instrumental in the fight to integrate Haiti as a member of CARICOM. He also negotiated a number of important international agreements on behalf of the Bahamas, including the Schengen Visa Agreement and the European Partnership Agreement. At the end of the Minister's address, we'll open up the floor for a question and answer session, and at that time, as a courtesy to the speaker, if you're able to give your name and affiliation, that would be appreciated. Former Minister for Pacific Peoples, Opito Williams CO, is unable to be here today and sends his apologies. We originally were to have give the vote of thanks, but I'm pleased that Professor Ruben Azizian will be able to give the vote of thanks at the conclusion. Minister, it has been a pleasure to spend some time with you during your stay in Auckland following the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa. I'll now hand over to you for you to deliver your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Kareem. So I see you got Mike Creighton's book here, the original copy too. I need to take this back home. So thank you all for coming this afternoon, gracing me with your presence, and a special thank you to my host, the University and the Institute, and to Kareem Dickey at the Caribbean Council for helping to arrange this forum at such short notice. And I want to thank the Foreign Affairs team that's traveling with me, Jerusa Ali, who's our Director General, sitting up front, the Foreign Affairs officers, Rolanda Davis, Jaden Swain, and our Second Secretary, Justin Smith, who's sitting up at the back, and then the aides, Bernard Ferguson and Jeffrey Charité. So that's the whole team there. I was telling one of your colleagues that I was speaking to over the last few days that we actually had 68 Bahamians in Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government Conference. I'm sure that's probably the largest amount of Bahamians in this part of the world for quite a while. So this is the last of 2 days here in New Zealand. As you heard from my biography, this is the 3rd time that I've been foreign minister. The Bahamas operates its foreign policy within a multilateral context. This was the foundational principle laid down by our founding Prime Minister, Lyndon Pinling, 15 years ago when we joined the United Nations. We, like New Zealand, are members of the Commonwealth. There are 56 of us in that body. And I determined when I first became minister in 1992 that we should have diplomatic relations with every Commonwealth country. And we are just now getting close to that fact. We consider New Zealand to be a friend in every respect, having cooperated in the Commonwealth context and also at the United Nations. I want you to know the Bahamas is seeking a seat at the United Nations Security Council in the year 2032 to 2033, and the election takes place in the fall of 2031. We are seeking actively the support of New Zealand and this region, and we offer in exchange support to New Zealand in its diplomatic and trade ambitions. The other important body in this context in which we operate our foreign policy is the CARICOM group. So this is a group of 15 countries. 13 of them are former colonies of the United Kingdom, and you add to that Haiti and Suriname. Haiti, of course, being a former French colony, and Suriname being a former Dutch colony. And we seek to coordinate the foreign policy of our countries to our mutual benefit. The number one issue for all of our countries, I would say, in this year is the issue of climate change. New Zealand has been a leader in the fight on climate change, and we look forward to working with New Zealand on the issues at the COP29, which will take place in Baku in Azerbaijan in November. Now, I've come here directly from Samoa. There, the Prime Minister of Samoa and the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Philip Davis, signed a communique establishing diplomatic relations between the two countries. The Prime Minister of Samoa and her people presided over a successful heads of government meeting. The two main issues at the meeting were climate change and reparatory justice for slavery and indigenous people. Having regard to the history of your country, that was also a theme that I've discussed while here. I had an excellent meeting last evening with a representative of the Maori community and explained some of the synergies and convergences of our shared experiences in colonialism from history and how we can learn from each other on these issues. In the Caribbean, we are engaged in a fight for reparatory justice arising out of the millions of African slaves who were brought forcibly to the Caribbean during the centuries 1400 to 1800s. It is believed that 3 million slaves were brought to the Caribbean by the British and millions more to the Americas. And it is now widely acknowledged that there was a great moral wrong, the slave trade. Millions perished in the Middle Passage. The slave owners got compensation, the slaves and their dependents did not. And the bonds that supported the borrowing to pay off the British government's debt for the compensation, those bonds were just settled in the year 2015. So there's now an argument for reparatory justice. In the Bahamas, where the majority of the descendants of the country are descendants of African slaves, there is no native indigenous population or First Nation. By the time the Europeans and Africans arrive, history tells us that the Spanish, who first visited the islands in 1492 and afterwards, had denuded the islands of its populations and left them barren of its human population. So in 1648, then when the British settlers arrived, fleeing from religious persecution in Bermuda, what history says is there was no one in the islands. And so the society as it's presently constructed began in its present incarnation in 1648. The descendants of African slaves became the majority of the population after the War of Independence that created the United States. And loyalists to the British Crown were expelled from the United States and moved to the Bahamas to take advantage of the land being offered in generous grants for their loyalty to the Crown. They implemented a system of apartheid both in law and later by social practice from 1648 through 1782. There followed, therefore, a period of slavery and by social construct, which was not set aside until what we call Majority Rule Day on the 10th of January, 1967. So Majority Rule Day, 10th of January 1967, marks the first time that an African-led government governed the Bahamas. Slavery was abolished in 1834. So today we have a modern democratic state, but we suffer the dysfunctions of the legacy of slavery and underdevelopment. We also face an existential threat of climate change, with 80% of the land in the Bahamas being within 1 meter of the sea. The highest point in the country is 206 feet. But we have faith that we can overcome all of these obstacles and difficulties through working together. And what better place to start than right here in New Zealand? I think of this visit as establishing a beachhead for the Bahamas. And we all hope that this will be the beginning of another chapter in what we call a beautiful friendship. We are actively seeking someone, for example, who can be an honorary consul to look after our interests in New Zealand. We see tremendous opportunities for collaboration with New Zealand and the Pacific Islands. We share similar challenges and can learn from each other's experiences. We can work together to advocate for climate change, strengthen democracy, and promote peace and security in our regions and reparatory justice. And I commend New Zealand's ongoing work in supporting the Pacific Island nations to address the current impacts of climate change and to build resilience against the challenging future it promises. As we face these global challenges, strong partnerships are essential. The Bahamas and New Zealand, though geographically distant, are close in our shared values and the commitment to the Commonwealth. Our diplomatic ties, formalized in this century, are a testament to this connection. And I want to thank the High Commissioner, who is here with us today, for her dedication in strengthening our regional bonds. We look forward to welcoming her to Nassau. New Zealand's engagement in the Caribbean, particularly on SIDS issues, is invaluable, and we share a commitment to a rules-based international order, multilateralism, and sustainable development. We recognize New Zealand's deep ties with the Caribbean, spanning culture, sports, and the Commonwealth. And we see opportunities to expand our collaboration in areas like climate resilience, trade, renewable energy, and disaster preparedness. The CARICOM Development Cooperation Arrangement is a key part of this. The challenges we face demand innovative solutions and joint action. So we invite New Zealanders to visit the Bahamas, experience our culture, and witness the beauty and fragility of our precious islands firsthand. We encourage research partnerships with the University of the Bahamas, the Small Island Sustainability Center, a hub for finding practical solutions for island nations. Our aspiration is a world where all nations, big and small, work together to solve common problems. And I urge you to join us. So thank you very much indeed.